Now, the compression and EQ effects we've used so far are what are called insert effects. And what that means is they're inserted right into the signal, like a compressor here and an EQ here, and the signal just goes right through them. And the important thing to remember is that they are completely wet. So in other words, when I'm putting the vocal through a compressor, I don't want to mix the dry signal with the compressed signal. I want the entire thing to be compressed. So it's what we would call 100% wet. When we go through the EQ, it's the same thing. We want the entire signal to be wet, EQ'd. We don't want any of the un-EQ'd signal mixing with it because that would defeat the purpose of using an EQ. Now, the effects we're about to add are often referred to as time domain effects. In other words, delays, reverbs, echo, that kind of thing, and chorus as well. And the thing about those effects is that we want to mix our dry signal with the wet signal. In other words, if we add a reverb, for example, we don't want the entire signal to be reverbed. We just want our dry signal, which is compressed and EQ'd, and then we want some reverb on the side to sort of mix in with it. And the best way to do this is to use a Mixcraft send track. And a send track lets you put the effect on a completely different mixer bus, and we can use a send knob to send some of the sound over to that reverb, and we can mix it in with our dry signal. Now, the other cool thing about this is that you can have a little more flexibility with the wet effect. In other words, I can take the reverb and I can pan it different ways independently of the dry signal. So that's nice. And also the levels of the reverb don't affect the level of the dry signal.
Okay, so now we've got our vocal with its insert effects over here with G-Snap and Classic Compressor and the Parametric EQ. Let me close this. And now I want to add like a chorus doubler type effect, and I want to add maybe a delay or reverb, that kind of thing. So I'm going to use send tracks like I just talked about to add these effects. So I'm going to press the plus track button over here, add send track, and let's do another one. Add send track. So here we have two send tracks, and I'm going to click on the first one over here, and I'm going to put a chorus on here by pressing the effects button, and I'm going to use classic chorus, and here we'll hit the edit button so we can see it. And I'll use a preset. I'll use vocal spread. Now here's something super important to be aware of with send tracks. When you're using a send track, the effect on that send track is being mixed in with the dry track. So you want to make sure that this mix control over here is all the way on effect, all the way on wet. Because otherwise, if I have it over on direct, the problem is some of the dry from here is going to get mixed with the dry from our lead vocal track, and it'll be really hard to control the level of the dry track because they'll mix together in kind of a weird way. So make sure this is all the way on effect, all the way on wet, and that way we won't have weird mix problems. And now I got to get our lead vocal to send over to this send track. So I'm going to click on the automation right here, and I'm going to click over here on sends, and a knob appears. And this is the send knob that sends over to send one, which is this guy over here, which is our chorus effect. Now you can also do this in the mixer. If you click on the mixer tab over here, you can see once you add send tracks, you'll get a send knob. You can see my send knob over here corresponds with the one over here. And you can also, if you've got any other send tracks, like this one down here, here's send one, there's send two. If you've got another one, you can click over here and you can choose that, and now I'm sending to the other send. But since we've got no effects on that one yet, I'm going to keep that on 0 for now. I'm going to close the mixer by clicking over here. So now we've got this send going to the chorus. So I'm going to turn this all the way down to start. And let's have a listen to what our chorus sounds like.
I don't know if I'm
going to bring the chorus
strong
up.
enough to
Holy moly, that's loud.
hold the weight of this news.
Now, the send track is what we call post fader. And what that means is if I turn down this fader over here, it affects how much is going to the send over here. So this works out pretty well because this means that if I adjust the volume of our vocal track, the amount of the send track, i.e. the amount of chorus, will adjust proportionally with the volume here, which is really handy. So let's get this at a decent level. A little much. That's a good balance. And now in send 2, I'm going to add some reverb. So let's click effects over here. And hey, we're using all these classic effects, so I'll use classic reverb. I'm going to hit the edit button. Make sure this is all the way in effect. So, and again, we've got to make sure that our send knob is turned up. So over here, I could select the other send, send to, which is what's going over here. I'm going to turn this to 100. And again, I'll dial this back. This is the output level, the reverb. So we don't want that to be blasting. So let's have a listen to that.
I don't know if I'm strong enough to
Let's play the reverb a little bit.
hold the weight of this news.
Now the vocal seems a little loud, so let's dial back a little.
Since you told me, let the sun burn out in the sky.
Now that we've got our vocal sounding super rad, the only thing left to do is to automate the volume level so it sits in the track properly. As you can see in our example song, the first half of the vocal performance is considerably quieter than the second half, so we can compensate for this by using automation. And while we're at it, we can emphasize certain words by bringing them up, or we can de-emphasize words by bringing them down if they were a little loud.
So what we can do to automate it is, if that's not already on, click on the little automate button there. And right now, this automation line over here, you could put points in here, and it's adjusting the amount of send going to the reverb, which is not what we want. So if I click over here, and if I select track volume, it says track volume right there. And now I can start clicking and adding points. Now, you might want to make sure that snap is turned off, because if snap is on, the points will only land on whatever the snap setting is. So let me zoom a little bit. I'm going to add some automation points.
If I'm strong enough,
That's really loud, so let's pull that down.
hold the weight.
If you hold down the shift key, you can just move the entire straight line up and down, which is extremely handy. So let's have a listen to this.
I don't know if I'm strong enough.
Still too loud. Hold down the shift key, pull it down a little bit. Listen again.
Strong enough to hold the weight of this news.
So now you'll just go through the entire song and automate the whole vocal. I'll pull that down to make it look a little prettier. And just get everything level, and you're all set.